y'all have both of your sheets, right? So you have both of them out. And you've written, I think I made, let's see. So I'm going to be doubling the recipe, but y'all only have a single recipe, but I just have to make enough for all of y'all, so that's why I'll be doubling it. So you can go ahead and do the math in your head, but we're just going to walk through it. So the directions, if you can pull those out, you can go ahead. I think all y'all wrote down all the ingredients, right? So you wrote down the oil, the eggs, the water, pumpkin, flour, salt, nutmeg, cinnamon, baking soda, and sugar under the equipment list. Got lost. Or under the ingredients. And then the equipment, you can kind of see what I've pulled out if y'all have any questions on all of them. I'll kind of cover it as I go, but we have like this, the baking cups, the spatulas, the bowls, the whisks, the sifter, measuring cups and spoons, but I think I'll be naming some of them off later. Alright, so when we start on the directions are underneath. What is number 1? What does that say? Nope, it says preheat the oven to 400. Is everyone there?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
On the directions on the menu. Is everyone there? Alright, so let's read it out loud. What's number 1 say?
Preheat oven to 400 degrees.
Alright, so what does preheat mean?
That means just cut it on and let it sit.
Yes. Why is that important?
We cut.
It's already ready for you?
At an even temperature.
Yes. So we'll go ahead. I turned it on over there, so it's preheating while I'm going to make the rest of this. So it's set on 400, so you can put that under the cooking temperature at the bottom. And then you can put preheat under the preparation. So that's something that you do before you're going to start cooking. And then, what does number 2 say? Everybody.
Line cup
with paper cups.
Thank you. Alright, so I already did that. That was another thing I did for preparation. So I went ahead and lined everything, so you can put that under preparation. We're going to use these little leave paper cups for the liners, and we don't have to spray them because we're using the liners, but if you want to use the spray instead of the liners, it would just create more of like a crunch to the outside of the muffins instead of using the liners, which will make it a little bit more like a cupcake. This is like what you would use for a cupcake, so depending on what you use. But for us today, we'll use those for your demo. For your lab, we'll also do those. Alright, what does number 3 say?
combine oil, eggs, water, and pumpkin in a medium bowl.
Thank you. So number 3 is the first step of the mixing method. So you can put that under number 1. That is measuring all of your wet ingredients. So we're going to measure our wet and then we're going to measure our dry separately, because that's the difference between the muffin method and the biscuits that we're going to make, or at least learn about later on today. So the first one is measure the oil. So we're going to pull out what kind of measuring tool?
The measuring cup?
A liquid measuring cup?
Yes.
Yes. And
You want us to put that down for what?
yes, you can. Just kind of as I go. If you see anything that you didn't write down that I'm using, then you can just write that on there. And I'm just going to eyeball this. Remember, that's kind of what we do for liquid. Since it's clear, we just bend down and make sure that it's hitting the line. So I've got, you've got a half a cup. So doubling that, what would that equal?
1 cup.
Nice. All right, so we're going to pour it in the smaller bowl. Just make sure all of it comes out. And what's next? Help me out. In the list. Combine oil and then what?
Eggs.
Eggs. And how many for you guys? It's
4.
2, and then for me it'd be 4. Is that right? All right. And I'm going to break these separately into a separate bowl, and then I'm going to pour them into here. And why is that important?
Just in case you get the little shell.
The shells? Yeah. Because we don't want to break one of these off and then It's just stuck in all of your rest of your batter. Alright, one more. And then, what am I going to do?
1/3 cup water, so 1/6.
Yes. So what is that double? 2/3? But if you have trouble with it, you can always just do 1/3 and 1/3 if it's, if you're having trouble or if you just kind of second guessing yourself. Water's a little harder, you kind of have to probably go in and go back, but I did it pretty consistently. And what's next?
Pumpkin and medium bulk.
How much pumpkin? For me?
2 cups. 2 cups. 1.
Does anyone else have an answer other than? No? Okay, yes, it's going to be 2 cups. And how many ounces is that?
32.
Yes. There's 8 ounces in 1 cup.
Oh.
And then
Wow.
8 plus 8. It's fine. We're all learning it still. But for me, I'm just going to use the whole can. It says it right on the bottom right, 15 ounces. So whenever you're opening a can, it already says how much is in there, so you don't have to measure it out if you don't need to. And so, I mean, mine's hitting pretty close as 15 ounces, so you're just missing 1 ounce of pumpkin. I think y'all will be okay. But for y'all's cooking on Monday, you'll only be using 1 cup, so you'll have to measure that out. So you'll be using this 1 cup measuring cup, and you'll have to scoop it in there and press it down since it's kind of a different consistency. Then you'll be able to level it out. All right, and now what do I do?
1 cup plus 6.
We're gonna mix it first. And what I like to do if we're mixing eggs and I don't have a bowl and kind of already mixed it together, I kind of crack them just so you don't have to mix it and then try and crack it as you're mixing it. So go ahead and kind of crack the yolks, and then we're gonna mix it in together. And just be really gentle, especially because there's oil in it. See how I'm not like going crazy, because you just don't want it to mix it and then get it all over your partner's face and all over their apron or yourself as the oil seeps through. So just start off gentle, and then once it kind of starts working its way, the oil will kind of stay on the outside, so you gotta make sure you kind of hit the edges and go kind of circle and hit the bottom. Alright. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just so you see that it kind of turns into one blob. Alright, and then what does it say next? What's number 4?
Good together flour, salt, nutmeg, cinnamon, baking
Yes,
soda,
ma'am.
sugar, and
So that'll be the next mixing method. So we've gotten the measure the dry, and now measure the wet, and now we're going to measure the dry all together. But it definitely says sift it. So what do we use to sift it?
Sifter?
Nice. All right. Let's see. And since I don't have a separate bowl, I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. Sometimes you can measure everything out into a bowl and then pour it through the sifter, but this kind of is easier, just a one step of putting all the measured stuff in here, and then we'll sift through it. We've got the flour, we've got sugar. Would somebody like to help me measure out the flour? Anybody? Are you scared of the flour? Thanks. Alright. Oh yeah, maybe I'll have to put some more sugar. There's a lot of sugar in this. Alright. So how much flour? Let's help her out, guys. How much flour do we need?
We need
Doubling it. This one might be a little hard. So we start off with 1 cup of flour. So what's doubling 1 cup?
2 cups.
Alright, and then doubling 6 tablespoons. That one might be a little harder.
12 tablespoons.
True, but then let's think about it in a cup. around about close. It'll be 3/4. I know that I was kind of putting you guys on the spot, but it'll be 2 3/4 of the sifted flour. So go ahead and show them how to. Just go ahead and scoop it in. That might be not what the normal is. Just make sure it gets all the way in there. Yep. Oh, it's nice. Yep. Here, I'll scoop it in for you. Hold it over the edge. There we go. And then what are we going to use to level it off?
Yeah.
A straight spatula. But for y'all, it's going to be a straight spatula. I don't trust y'all with knives yet. So, alright, and go ahead and pour it in the sifter. Nice. Alright, and do it one more time. We'll do it better this time. Alright, and then how do we do a 3/4 cup? No, that was good. Kind of pound it on top first and then level it off. Yeah. Alright, and then scrape it off. Just to make sure it all gets in there. Nice job. And then, guys, how do we do a 3/4 cup if we don't have a 3/4 cup? A half and a quarter. That's a good one. And then, what else could we do? Anybody? Come on, guys. It would be a 1/4 and a 1/4 and a 1/4. Kind of how I told Robin before. If you don't know like a 1/3 and a 1/3 equal 2/3, then you can just do it separate. So we're gonna do, let's do hers. Let's do a half and then a 1/4. Alright, so you do one of those and then one of those to make 3/4. But for you guys, it'll be 6 tablespoons. So you'll have to do that quite a lot. And while she's measuring that out, what is the next ingredient that we have to do? How much?
1.
Good job. One?
1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon?
Teaspoon.
How do you know?
Because it says tea and then a spoon. That's
But is it, what kind of tea is it?
It's a lowercase.
Lowercase tea. That's what I was looking for. Alright, so for you guys it's a half a teaspoon, so what would mine equal? Nice. Alright. I'll let you go first. Alright, I was kind of getting ahead of myself, but you always measure over. Thank you. Alright, round of applause. Thank you. Alright. So always measure over something else and do the same thing where you're leveling it off. See how much salt scraped off of there. You don't want your, whatever you're making salty. And then what's next?
1
Nutmeg. How much?
teaspoon. 1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon of nutmeg. Alright. Scraping that off and putting it in here. What's next?
1 teaspoon cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Yes.
Alright. Putting it over here. Scraping it off. What's the last one? Is there one?
Wait, 2, no, that's the second to last. 2 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons baking soda.
Alright. And is that for me? 2 teaspoons. Nice job. Alright, and then for the baking soda, you can actually just use the top. That's kind of why it's made like that. So you can just scoop it real full and then scrape it off on the sides, or on the top. And then that's what you end up with. Alright, so it's 2 teaspoons. Thank you. Alright, and now what do we do? Sugar. Did we forget something?
Cup of sugar.
Yes, how much sugar?
That's a cup of
It's like
4, so
it's like 2 and 2 4.
2.5.
2.5. 2.5 cup of sugar.
2.5. Nice job. Alright. And that's a lot of sugar. Nice and sweet for you guys. So we got, everyone count with me. 1. 2.
2.
Good job.
And then a half. That's what you guys said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright. And that I don't have to level off as much. Sugar's a little bit more easier to just kind of shake. You just gotta fill it real full, and then when you shake it off, that's when it's easier. Alright, now what do you do? Alright. So, no, it won't be that hard. It goes pretty quickly. Just hold it with one hand on the handle, and then sift it on the other side, turning it. And I don't know if you guys can see it in the mirror, but there's this little bar that presses it through. Alright, I think we're empty. And what's the point of sifting, guys? What is
So you can mix everything in there.
Yeah, it makes it incorporates air, so it makes it fluffier, so the batter is softer, and then the muffins are softer. And then it also, does anybody know what else it does? Yeah, it makes it not have chunks of stuff in it, or it kind of blends it all together and incorporates it into one, instead of having like all the baking soda just in that one corner. So the whole thing does it. All right, and now what's the next step? It's number 5.
Make a well and dry ingredient and add pumpkin mixture.
All right, so what is a well?
You like biblical addiction.
Can you guys see that on the mirror, how that looks? It's just literally like a little ditch or ant farm, whichever one you want. And then we're going to add this into here. And then we're going to use, what's this?
Spatula.
Yeah, we're going to use a rubber spatula to just kind of get the ends off, clean it all out. Alright, and that's going to be the next step if you were writing that down. It's going to be make a well, and then we're going to, then the next one is add the wet to the dry. So not the dry to the wet, but we're making a well with the dry and then moving the wet to it. Alright. Then what's next? I think it's number 6.
Mix just until dry ingredients are moist.
I think Miss Gregory said that you guys watched a video, and he said in the video to mix it like 10 times or something like that. Is that what he said? Mm-hmm. Alright, so let's try it and see how it happens. So count with me and we'll see if we can make it. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was close. Not really. But yeah, there's definitely a good amount still left over. So I think he was mostly intending that you just don't overmix it. You're just doing it to a point on where all the flour disappears and then you stop. So when you're mixing it, you're just going to use the rubber spatula, and you're not going to whip it really fast and make it go all over the place, or leave flour in there. You got to make sure that all the flour is gone. So you're going to scrape the sides, scrape the bottom, and go kind of in this circular motion until all of it's gone. So the last class I even checked, and it was still kind of on the bottom. Can you guys check me and see if there's anything? I think there's still a little right here. But make sure that's what you do in your lab, so that when you're scooping it out, you're not ending up with salt at the end of it. That would just be disgusting. So just kind of check with everything. So I think that's pretty good. And it needs to be lumpy. It doesn't need to be kind of like a cake batter where it's smooth and just completely liquid. It's still going to have kind of like these lumps in it. Kind of see how it's not just this watery type thing. So now what are we going to do?
Fill the muffin cups that are 2/3 full.
Yes, and so I think we didn't really have a 2/3 because we have to do 1/3 and 1/3, and that would just be a pain. So I'm just going to use 1/3, and honestly ours are a little smaller, and so it kind of worked out just going to do it like this. So just going to scoop it up, make sure it's all the way full, and then we're just going to scrape the sides a little bit. and then just shake it out until it's full. Just make sure none of it is coming out of the top of it, because whatever's been cooking in there, that's what's it's gonna need to stay in the cup. So if it's already full to the top of the cup, it's not gonna have anywhere to go. That's how y'all be doing that, and then we'll just put it in the oven, and we're gonna cook it. You can put down at the bottom. It says about 15 to 20 minutes. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So you can put that on the cooking temperature. And then I usually don't put it just at 20 minutes and just hope for the best. Sometimes different ovens do different things, so I wouldn't want you to burn it just hoping 20 minutes is about right. I always go to the least amount or even a little less and then check it after that, like every minute. So I put it on 15 minutes last time and it was done at 15 minutes. So you'll definitely want to be careful to make sure you don't overdo it. But you also don't want to make sure to check it every 5 minutes, opening and closing the oven. Why is that important?
Because it's going to make the
air in.
Yeah, it's going to lower the temperature. What else would it do? It would maybe sink the stuff that you're making. If you're wanting this high and fluffy and tall, what if you open up the air and it cools down the temperature and brings in, moisture? It's not gonna rise. It's gonna start having these little peaks. Isn't that what y'all talked about earlier, where it kind of looks like a mountain on the top of it? Yeah. All right. So I will go ahead and put these in, and we'll keep track of it. And then Miss Gregory is going to show you guys a video on biscuits that then you'll learn, and we'll do all of them together. That's sound good? All right.